Hi guys, it's Sheridan here, and today I'm bringing you something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a voiceover of my first lesson that I had on Teddy. The reason I'm doing a voiceover in this is because of the wind in the video, and also because you can't really hear the instructor as she's so far away. So in this video, we didn't do much at all. We only did a little bit of trot and mostly walk, and we focused more on just really simple stuff like steering and getting him forward, because he does tend to be lacking in a bit of impulsion. So you can see here that we were doing a little bit of just body control, and we were teaching him the baby steps for turn on the forehand, which he's picking up nicely. He is quite sticky. He does tend to sort of bob his head up and down, as you'll be able to see if he doesn't quite understand something. But as soon as he sort of starts to comprehend what you're asking him, he figures it out really quickly, and he, as you can see, picks up on it really nicely. So in this, my instructor is actually poking him in his rib cage slightly, just to give him a bit of a ground cue to move over, which I do with him on the ground all the time, so he knows that cue already. And then I'm also bumping him with my respective leg and holding him firmly in the contact to make sure he doesn't walk forward or try to move to get that proper pivot. And he's doing quite well. Yeah, you can see he was being a good boy, so after a couple of tries of him doing it well, we move off into a walk. So now in this clip, my instructor has told me a slightly different technique for getting a 10 on the forehand. She's told me to turn him into the fence while giving him the cue for the turn on the forehand. And it kind of works, as you can see, but he does move forward. He doesn't really pivot properly. He just sort of turns really tightly. He doesn't actually do sort of a proper turn on the forehand. So she gets me to try it again here, and he does it better, but he still moves his front end a bit more than what our first attempt showed. So I haven't used that technique again because I found it worked better the other way, rather than just sort of steering him blindly into a wall to try and get him to move over. So we try one more time for the turn on the forehand using the rail technique, and as you can see, he's a little bit better than the 2 times before, but he still didn't really respond, so we left it at that. We've moved on to a bit of work on the circle now, just in the lower part of the arena instead of using the whole arena, just for a bit more control, as it was only like my 3rd ride on him in total at this point, since getting him. So we're just doing a little bit of trot and then coming back to a walk to make sure we've got that control. Teddy is quite a lazy horse. He does have a really nice go button once he knows what you want, but if you're unsure or you're not sort of sending him the right signals to move forward, he really slows down and does not want to move. So that's what we were mainly focusing on in this lesson, is because it was my first sort of proper lesson with him. We really wanted to sort of push him and see what he would be able to do, rather than me just sort of walking around aimlessly like I had been doing the last couple rides, just getting used to him for the first little while. And now we're testing him out more, seeing what he can do, starting some proper actual sort of training with him, I guess you could say. So in respect to training, we're focusing on sort of a 50-50 split between my position and how Teddy is going. With respect to me, I'm working on some of my bad habits in this lesson, which are my heels and my hands and elbows. I've always struggled to keep my heels down, and it's probably not helping that I have quite long stirrups. I have horrible hands that bounce whenever I trot as well, and that's been something I've tried to deal with ever since I first started learning to ride, and I still haven't quite got under control. And the next is my elbows getting really, really stiff when I try to control my hands and control the bouncing of my hands. So they're the three main categories that I'm trying to work on while we're not doing too many fancy things with Teddy. It allows me time to focus on myself more than him, if we want to sort of focus more on me in that particular part of the lesson, because we're not doing anything too fancy that requires me to focus more on Teddy instead of myself. And then we switch it up and we focus on Teddy a little bit as well, getting him moving forward, as I've said before, and also just maintaining a good contact with his mouth as well, which I struggle with a bit. But he does know how to go round and on the bit, but I haven't quite got the tact in my hands yet to keep him in a nice contact so he is able to go round, if that makes any sense. So we work on that a little bit as well, and you'll see a couple of times he does go into a frame, but he doesn't stay there long, as I tend to lose my balance a little bit, and that in turn throws away my contact for him to be able to seek. He has beautiful, lovely, flowy movement when he's going correctly. As you'll see in this clip, I'm gonna trot him down the long side of the arena, and I get him going nice and kindly, not too forward. He's a little bit on the slow side, but I'd much prefer that than him being too speedy, especially considering I'm not used to riding a thoroughbred or even a hot breed of horse for that matter. But he's not the type to get fizzy anyway. I do need to learn to trust him a bit more in that regard, though. I've known him since he was 4, so you'd think I'd have a bit more faith in him than I do, but I have had bad experiences with horses being too much of a handful for me before in my past, so I think I'm rightfully cautious about it, but once I get to trust him more, it'll all be good. In saying that I'm still learning to trust him, he went so incredibly well in this lesson. This is the most trot work I had done this point in time with him, and I could not fault him. He didn't get too quick. He didn't get unbalanced and threw me off balance. I didn't get too unbalanced and throw him off balance. We both worked together really, really well, and we gelled really nicely, I feel. Coming down this long side again in trot, you can see that we're going really nicely. I'm in balance. He's swinging beautifully in his trot, and he's actually got his head down a little bit, which is nice to see. And it just shows that in a small amount of time, I've gone from having my first ride on him back at his owner's place, where I wasn't even able to get like a forward walk out of him, to now being able to go laps of the arena in trot without stopping and keeping him nice and swinging.
Keep that lower leg nice and steady. Along the long side. It's looking good, Sheridan. I don't think you need a whip just yet. You're working well.
You can see after that spot of trot work I did, we're now giving him a nice relaxing walk around the arena,
like me.
just to give him a bit of white noise, I like to call it. Back into a trot now though, after a short little walk, and he's going quite nicely now on the opposite rein, giving us a little bit of a frame every now and then. I tend to trot better on my right side, and I canter better on my right side as well, whereas Teddy bends a bit better going to the left, but that's because of his racing history as well, always racing to the left rather than doing anything to the right. So we kind of complement each other in that way, because if I'm good going to the right and he's bad going to the right, we sort of will even each other out, which makes training a lot easier, because if he's unbalanced going one way and I'm balanced going that way, I can help him out. Same as with the other direction. If he's more balanced going one way and I'm not, he can help sort of give me a bit of a solid feel underneath me that I can balance upon.
You should be able to feel him stopping. Inside leg, outside rein. That's it. Really good. Working hard. So's he. One more lap.
My stirrups keep going.
Start the sweat. Come on, Venus. Heels down, toes up. That's it. looking where you're going. Look where you're going, that's it. And give him a bit of a walk. So about a 30-metre walk here. Don't let him stop on that.
So just giving him his final cool down walk now. He went so incredibly well, I can't even explain. My instructor was thoroughly pleased with him. She said he's really honest and he's a really good match for me, both temperament and training wise, because although he's uneducated, he is really, really willing and kind. So I'm so pleased to hear that, and I can't wait to start training him more consistently and see where we go. So thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next video.